What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and in this video we'll be talking about two different cryptos, HBAR and Stellar Lumens XLM. We're going to go over Stellar Lumens first, and then we're going to finish off with HBAR. If that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe. If you have a problem with that, just let me know in the comments, and I guess we can go from there. Anyways, here we are at 32.7 cents right now. 7 hours and 43 minutes left in this day. We are dealing with the aftermath of this massive flash crash here, but we're holding up very well. I think we're holding up very well here. If we take into consideration the low that we had in June of this year to the high that we had of this year, not including the fake out high, we actually went directly to the golden ratio zone, right? The 618 right there, that top white line, that's the golden ratio itself. This overall area is the zone, this white zone here. It's for loading and unloading only. If you're loading in the zone, you're doing very well. I think it's interesting that the scam wick, and I do feel comfortable calling it a scam wick. I don't think it's real price action. I do find it interesting that you did find support right there at the 1272. Like specifically right there. It's kind of interesting. From this significant high to low, like that's exactly where you stopped. It's crazy. And just above there. But I do think, focusing on this, if we're excluding this, I don't think this is real price action. I would say confidently that you have found support at the golden ratio and you look good. What's important to mention here now is the road ahead. So whenever we move higher, that's great. When we get higher highs, that's great. But really, you want to focus on this red line here. When we get above about 42.1 cents on a daily closing or a weekly closing basis especially, that would likely coincide with breaking out of this overall downtrend that we've been in since July and likely propel us to higher prices, new all-time highs altogether. So definitely looking forward to that when that comes. I think we're at the base of this here, and we're at the beginning phases of this move that will take us up to those areas that we're looking for. So let's look at the short-term stuff and then see if we can validate that. Looking at the 1 hour time frame here, the 1 hour indicators. First and foremost, let me just see, what about this low to high? Low here to a high right here. Man, I like it. 41 minutes left. We're actually off to a good start here. Bouncing right off the 382. That's a really good look. I like this a lot. I actually like, that's a very healthy move up. Perfect move right off the 382. If you can close a 1 hour time frame above 32.7 cents, I think you validate this as a low and then you'll move higher. Isn't it perfect? You went just below this low, enough to shake people out probably, and now you're moving higher. It's like here, oh no, we broke out of our uptrend. Oh no, we took out the low, and then boom, that's whenever you actually move. It's crazy. Really what you're doing is you're just finding support, the same area that you found support, the same area that you found resistance, and at your 382 where you found support at before. It's a perfect area of significance, and you're getting a significant reaction, I would say. A little bit under 1% in an hour here. Looking at this with the indicators, the RSI is in a downtrend. You took your uptrend and you substituted it for a downtrend, lower lows, lower highs, that whole shebang there. But typically downtrends do end once you hit the oversold zone. Now, you did hit it, but typically you get into the oversold zone, right? Like your upwards trends, they don't end until you're in the overbought zone. So it is possible here, we could have lower highs, lower lows. It is possible you could still come back down. And while I really do like this bounce off the 382, it's important to mention, we have 40 minutes left in this hour. We've moved up a good bit so far, but we could, if we did this in the first 20 minutes, what about the next 40 minutes? We could definitely give it back if we wanted to, and see a slightly lower low. It's actually very common when interacting with the 382 to get a slightly lower, or to wick just below it and then close above it. As long as we're closing above 32.2 cents, though, I don't have a problem. If we close below there, it's still not a problem, but it just likely promotes lower prices below like 31.5 cents there. Again, important to mention that while the RSI is bearish, we could be finding support here. We could be breaking out, but I'm hesitant to say so. I would think we're more at a point to reject, and we probably do proceed to lower levels after this hour. If I'm wrong, cool. Then close above about 32.7 cents. If you can close above that on an hourly basis, then I'm probably wrong, and we do move higher, which is great. But if I'm right, then perhaps what we do is we go just below this 382. We go just below 32.2 cents. Or potentially we do go all the way down to about 31.2 to 31.5 cents, something in that area. And if we do go that low, that's fine. That's a perfect area to bounce from as well. It is a higher low after all in respects to these lows here. And, I think that we'd continue from there. So right now we're kind of in a wait and see moment. It looks nice. It looks nice for a bounce, but 40 minutes left with that big of a move. I'm a little bit intimidated by that. I wouldn't be surprised if we were checking back for prior support here to be resistance. But again, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Close above the 236 or close above 32.7 cents. If you can do that, then this is the low, and you're likely going to take out this high between the end of today, if not tomorrow. Looking at the 4 hour time frame, did we look at just the RSI? Stochastics actually look good for continuation, and the MACD is at a point where you would expect it to bounce as well. So there's actually some serious implications that this is the low. But let's just see how this hour closes. Okay, let's see how this hour closes first. 4-hour time frame here. You did just cross red, but that's okay. Sometimes we get these false crosses, right? Just like here, you're in a downtrend, you had a false cross to the upside, false cross there. So they happen. We've got 3 hours, 38 minutes left. This 4-hour candle is fresh, man. Yeah, the fact that we moved up so much in the beginning of this hour, I think we have lower to go. I do. I'm fairly confident that's not the low and that we do go lower. At this point, I would like to say I'm fairly confident in that. Let's do this. And then where is this in proportion to that? So close. I do. I'm super confident at this point in time. Watch this age so terribly. I'm very confident that we go to 31.5 cents, if not lower. Yeah. But nothing crazy, not too much lower than that, right? Like I doubt we go below 31.2 cents. I doubt at this point that we even go below like 31.4 cents, but we probably do go right into that area there. That'd be my expectation. 4-hour RSI bouncing off the 50. That's a nice look, but again, 3 hours, 37 minutes left in this 4-hour. If we close it red, you're no longer bouncing off the 50, but instead penetrating the 50. And that's fine because look at this. Look at this. You actually have an uptrend here. From this low to that low, you actually are in a bit of an uptrend. If we connect the dots here, you know, that maybe it's like this. If we connect the dots here, maybe it's like this. However it is, whatever it is, we have room to come down. Right? And again, re-emphasizing here that we're in an uptrend. Overall positive territory. Overall stellar lumens is going to continue to move higher, but we have the allowance, the capabilities of going lower and it not being a detriment to that idea. So we can go lower, but just not significantly lower, and then recover from there and then continue to move up. That's the expectation at the moment. Because again, overall we are in an ascending trend with this RSI. However, you have hit the overbought zone. You did have bearish divergence up there, to be completely fair, but I don't know if that means that we have to go lower. I think we've already seen most of this move down. We just have a little bit lower to go. Stochastics probably not finding support here at the 50, so again, expressing the need to go lower. You probably do go to the oversold zone before you bounce back up. That'd be the expectation there. And the MACD, again, just crossing red. It can be a false signal. We can still move higher, but maybe you just, you stay red for a second and then we move up. I would expect going into the end of this day and starting tomorrow, we will be at that 31.5 cent area. We should be recovering as early as tomorrow, if not maybe the next day, the 29th. Looking at the daily time frame here, zooming out a little bit more, we have freshly crossed on the daily time frame. So again, these downside negative aspects in the price are short-lived experiences. They're not going to be long-lived, right? On the daily time frame, we've actually just flipped positive, and on the stochastics, we have bounced off the 50. On the RSI, we had bullish divergence here. We are bearish overall, let's be fair, but I think that we have some bullish prospects to send us higher, at least up here, right? At least up where we found resistance before, but likely we progress higher. We do get overbought with this move here. I would expect then, moving up to these same areas that we found resistance before in the RSI, that would at least give us enough reason to believe that we go to like 37 to 40 cents, something like this up here. And that just makes sense looking at this, right? Lower highs throughout this whole kind of trend here. It goes right there. I would expect we get a different result though, right? Instead of rejecting where we did here, we rejected down below the 40 here, below the 40 here, below the 40 to the oversold zone. I would expect here, maybe we get tied up a little bit, but we probably find support at a higher level, and that'll send us to the overbought zone there. So going into the end of the month, we're looking for a little bit of positivity, right? Going into the end of the month, which is the 27th now, so we only have like 4 days left. We should see prices somewhere, I think, from like 36 cents to 39 cents, maybe 40 cents, maybe higher. If anything higher, not lower. Somewhere around here. And then we probably start off the month of November moving down because, again, expecting that the RSI finds turbulence here, but a different reaction, a different result. Instead of going all the way down here or getting oversold, you probably bounce at a higher level, and in which case we start off the month to the downside, but then we likely recover, getting overbought, really seeing the fireworks come to life, breaking out of this overall phase as a whole, and then we zoom out real quick to just get a grand scope at this. If we're breaking out of this phase, we're breaking out of this phase. If we're breaking out of this consolidation area here, we're breaking out of this consolidation area here. So it all starts with this little guy, right here. When we break out of this, which likely we will be going into the very beginnings of November, it's going to cascade. It's going to be a cascade of events. It's a domino effect of a greater overall multi-cycle breakout that we're going to see. And likely the first intended target area that we should expect would be about $1.54, and then as high as $3.57 by the end of the year. I'm thinking we'll be at $1.54 sometime in November. We might even be pressing $2 or higher by the end of November, but certainly I would believe that we're at least I would genuinely think that we're at least at like 220. I know we said $1.54 by the end of the year, but man, 220 or higher by the end of the year. You're probably at $1.54 or higher by the end of November. That's my expectation. And then going into the end of the cycle, of course, we have our $10, $20, and even beyond price expectations. But I would say $20 is probably a safe bet, maybe just below $20 for Stellar Lumens there. Let's move on. Let's talk about HBAR now, Hedera Hashgraph. Hit that like button if you're just here for Stellar Lumens. Subscribe. Thank you all. Leave a nice comment. If you want to leave a mean comment, go for it. But I will leave a mean one back. So, some people do it just for fun, and then we have fun together. It's funny whenever somebody writes like a comment, they're just being a smartass or something, and then I write a smartass comment back, and then they're like, "Hey man, I was just having fun." I'm like, "So was I though. I was just having fun too." I'm not getting personal. I don't know, and I hope nobody takes anything I say in the comments personal, because I don't know you, you don't know me, right? This is all digital. We kind of know each other to some degree if we've interacted, but how can you take offense to someone that you've never met before? Um, and that's the same thing with me, right? Whenever I'm reading things online, I've got people, man, I'm going on a whole different tangent here, but I've got family members who are like, how can you tolerate some of these words that people say? Because these haters, these trolls are out in full force, man. And it's like, I don't know, it doesn't affect me, right? If I let that affect me, just like if you let something online affect you, it's kind of weak, I think, right? Especially if you don't know the person. It just doesn't make any sense. People just say things because they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, right? And that's basically how I look at it. But anyways, low to high. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. Finding support in your golden ratio zone as well. A little bit less coherent, a little bit less adhesive to this area than Stellar Lumens is. A little bit sloppier, but still good. Still a good look. What I really appreciate is that you found resistance at the 0.5 and you still held this area of support. Typically, this is like a death sentence to the 786, 886, or even lower. So the fact that you continue to hold support here in the golden ratio area, you're even above it now, I think is a good thing. Looking at the short-term stuff for HBAR here, the RSI, again, kind of like Stellar Lumens, right? You have a higher low, higher high dynamic here, and you've broken out of that on the 1 hour. So you're kind of in this lower trend now. It might make sense that you go lower. You're probably at a rejection point here pretty soon, so I would think that we do go lower. 1 hour, last hour did sell off. Moving up a little bit here, but we have 30 minutes left in this hour. Let's see how it goes. Stochastics at a point to reject, but it is possible that we continue up to the overbought zone. Sometimes we find resistance at the 50. Most of the time you do push higher, but I have a feeling that we are going to reject here. We'll see. Right, like if this hour were to come back and close red, the stochastics wouldn't be here. They'd actually be pointed down and they'd be rejecting the 50 directly. The MACD is at an area to bounce, which is nice, but the reality is it could actually come lower and still be fine. You could even cross a little bit below the zero and still be fine, right? Like here you cross below the zero and you still found a nice area of support. You did go down lower afterwards, but that's not the point, okay? The point is the reaction after the fact. You don't have to. You can go lower, get the MACD to go lower, and you can still have a positive reaction that builds from. Going on the 4 hour time frame here, looking at this overall again, I think that we're going to move down. But looking at the 4 hour time frame, we're just finding resistance at prior support. If we're looking at this with this high here to this low there, we're right at the golden ratio zone here as well. You've hit this zone once, twice, 3 times. I'm a bit surprised that we're not breaking through at this point, but we haven't broken through and we clearly have rejected. So I would think the 0.5 is a likely area to find support. I would like to say 17.5 cents, maybe 17 cents itself, but I doubt that you get below 17 cents. I would think 17.5 cents holds, and then from there you probably progress higher. You might get tied up here at about 20 cents, 19.5 cents for a little bit, but you probably do progress higher overall. We look at the indicators. The RSI is fantastic, but again, with this uptrend, right, you've got higher highs, you've got higher lows. You're kind of at the top side. Come down, relax a little bit. Cool off, and then make another run for it. The fact that HBAR looks like this gives me more confidence that Stellar Lumens on its 4 hour time frame. It gives me more confidence here that this uptrend is probably not over. Because again, remember I was saying uptrends typically end in the overbought zone with bearish divergence, of which Stellar Lumens does have. but HBAR and Stellar, they kind of move together, and I think that you look like you have more to go. I don't think that you're done here. Yeah, yes, you'll probably come down, but I think that you'll make another stab, a deeper stab here, and with that, you will likely be breaking out of this zone overall. So over the coming days, right? This is the 4-hour time frame. It doesn't express today's price action. I mean, it kind of does, but really it's like the coming days price action. The 1 hour is good for today. The 4 hours is good for the coming days. The daily is good for the coming weeks, and so on, right? I would think that we come down. We probably recover on the 29th going into the 30th, and then once we're up here, we're probably breaking out of this zone overall. So where are we going to go for breaking out of this zone? We take a high here to a low there, and the expectation then would be something between 20.8 cents to 22.5 cents. Let's just leave this box. Let's imagine that we go, it's something like this, right? Before the end of the month. Let's assume that we have a nice little pop up here before the end of the month. Might move down first, right? Then we have a pop, whatever, however it might look. And perhaps it's not the end of the month. Maybe it is early November, but I digress. Looking at this on a daily time frame, deleting the fibs, isn't that a perfect area? I mean, it literally looks perfect. Just because it looks perfect doesn't mean that it has to be respected, but you're kind of right there in that zone of lower highs. I would expect that what we do is we go into this going into the end of the month over the next couple of days, and then in the beginning of November we probably pull back to back test this point of resistance for support, and then we rally. Then we break out of this, and then we start to see higher prices. That's my expectation. I want to look at the 4-hour stochastics. Yeah, suggested that we go lower from here. MACD is bullish, but we can go lower from here and be fine. Daily time frame, very bullish on the stochastics. The RSI is bearish, but again, you've got the bullish prospects here set up. We did have bullish divergence at the very end of this trend, and we could be breaking out of it now. Perhaps what we do is reject here, but then we find support at the 40 or find support above it, whatever. The rejection doesn't reject. We come back up, we break through, and then as this trajectory continues more or less, we should get into the overbought zone around the midway point of November. Like the 10th to the 20th, somewhere in that range is what I'm looking at here. Maybe, right? We're just guessing because you can move up at this pace, you can move up at this pace, but I'm just guessing that you're going to continue at this kind of pace here that you're on. That'd be like the 10th through the 20th, somewhere in that time frame. We could expect to be overbought here on the daily time frame. And just for reference's sake, the last time we got overbought on the daily time frame, from a low to a high, that move overall corresponded with 137% gain. So if we were to, go from this low, not the Scamwick low, but to the high, 137%, I mean, that would take us to new relevant highs. We'd be at 36 cents and beyond. And I wouldn't be surprised if we were. And beyond that specifically, I would think that we really do see some growth going into November. The expectation there would be that if we're at 36 cents, we're breaking out of this range. We're probably breaking out of this overall range, just like Stellar Lumens. And with that, we should see prices that are, I think, anywhere from, anywhere from 55 cents to 82 cents pretty quickly. We look at the prior cycle high to the bear market low, and I would think that by the end of the year, HBAR is at a minimum at $1.20, at a maximum at $3.15, and most likely somewhere in between. Look at the significance here, the 2272 lining up with the 1414. Both of these fibs you typically do wick just above. So I think something just below $2 by the end of the year and something just above $1 by the end of November is what I would expect for HBAR here. You're at 18.17 cents now. If you're not at $1 or higher by the end of November, you'd certainly be well on your way, and you'd see most of that growth happen. I would think you're at least at 82 cents by the end of November, but we'll see. Anyways, I don't have anything else that I want to say. I think I've said it all. Everything looks good. We're just chilling real quick. We might come down a little bit, and that's fine. HBAR, where's it going to pull back to, right? Because we've talked about that. Where would it pull back to? I forget. High here to this low. We're thinking the 0.5, right? I remember. That would be at about 17.5 to 17 cents. That's right. Probably just below 17.5 cents. I'll see you guys on the next one. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all. Take care. Bye.